Started off this week's training session with an upper body workout, prioritizing the earthquake bar bench press, 179 pounds for 5 sets of 10. This is a 10-pound progression, quite excessive, but compared to my flat bench press, not so much. I was thinking I'd likely be clearing sets of 8, but I gave myself an 8 to 10 rep range, but fatigue did not set in the same way it did the first time around 2 weeks back when keeping this in as a primary lift, and I was able to clear all of the sets across with 10 full repetitions. That was encouraging. From there, I transitioned into the supinated close grip pull downs, employing that thick handle, developing those 5 arms as they're often referenced on TikTok. Forearm development is key, and that thick diameter bar forces me to crush the bar in order to maintain my grip throughout the entire duration of the set and all of the sets that I execute throughout the workout. From there, I went into some upright barbell rows, not too heavy, working sets of 12 across, trying to build those traps. Traps are the new abs. And then from there, went into some heavy triples on the close grip easy bar skull crusher, rocking 133 pounds for a top end triple. A little bit unorthodox to move these low reps heavy weights on an exercise like the skull crusher, but talk about rewarding. Having the big wheels on, having a few more plates on each side, it feels good. That being said, backed it off 119.5 pounds for 3 triples respectively, and even that was heavy. From there, finished off this upper body training session with some work on the battle ropes. My arms were absolutely trashed by the time this workout was complete, but it definitely felt like I had paid my dues, and that's got to count for something. So, leg day, SSB squats to the 18-inch box today. I'm pretty stoked about that. 2 weeks ago, I ran a conservative single on the SSB to the 18-inch box, 405 for 1. Felt pretty good, had a lot in the tank. So today's going to be the first day of rep work. We're going to be playing in the, are we in the 8 rep range or 6? 6 rep range today. So I'm going to drive the calculated PRs very aggressively, only because I'm confident there's a lot of room in the tank. And even though there's a skill-based component of getting used to this exercise, I know that this is going to move rather rapidly because it's something very new for me. And oftentimes the first block around on a new exercise, I'm able to squeeze quite a bit of linear progress out of it. So let's get busy and get under the bar. Started off this workout with a top end set of 6 on the SSB squat to the 18-inch box, 347 pounds for 6 consecutive repetitions. Calculating out quite aggressively, as I just mentioned I intended to do, and I definitely felt like I had more in the tank, which is even more encouraging considering the aggressive progression on the calculation is present, and it didn't feel all that hard. But I'm still going to buffer my own rate of progress. Even if it is a little bit aggressive, I'm not going to overreach. I'll still be reasonable when it comes to loading intensity. Backed off to 2 sets of 6 respectively with 312.5 pounds, keeping the volume low because I am keeping the intensity high. So as soon as that was done, I transitioned into split squats with the rear foot elevated, 102.5 pounds on the bar for 3 sets of 6 repetitions. Definitely not even close to failure yet on these, but still building my confidence when it comes to the relative stability required to ensure that I don't go for a topple with a loaded barbell, as that is not high on my priority list, especially on leg day, because leg day is already brutal enough. I don't need to brutalize myself by falling with weights. Definitely a lot more confident on the split squat variation. That roller, that stand was a great investment. Finished off with 5 sets on the GHD, running glute ham raises with load held at chest level. A measly 5 pounds, but I managed to clear 5 sets of 8 repetitions. The posterior chain development is evidently coming along quite well, and you can never have too strong of a posterior chain. It carries over quite well to your ability to move some seriously heavy weight. Saturday morning's training session started off on the incline bench, running a top end set of 6 with 239 pounds. Feels pretty good to be doing so much rep work with more than 2 plates on the incline. A younger me would be very proud to see this happening, because the incline press was always one of my weak points. Then I backed it off to 215 pounds, cleared 3 sets of 6, getting some of that back off volume in. Pretty soon, the majority of my back off work is going to be over 2 plates as well, and that's encouraging to think that could be just around the corner. Then I went into some barbell rows with a pronated hand position, basically meaning that my palms were facing back towards the wall behind me as I rode the weight up towards my torso. Not too heavy here, 115 for 4 sets of 15 reps across. And then I went into this shoulder circuit, giant set, if you will, front laterals, side laterals, rear laterals, 7.5 pounds only. It didn't need to be heavy. And I ran 20 reps to the front, then the side, then the back with no break in between all 20. So 60 total reps. There's a lot of blood flowing to the shoulders on that, and 3 consecutive rotations of that as well, obviously with a break in between each of those 3. And you can imagine that my shoulders were absolutely shot by the end. Then I went into the earthquake bar skull crusher variation, and see, this is, I want to say funny, but it's actually not funny. My shoulders were so shot from that circuit that even just holding the bar itself was incredibly fatiguing. And as you can imagine, with all of the weebling and wobbling occurring with the earthquake bar, my triceps got very toasty as well. As soon as I was done with the skull crushers here, I transitioned into a bicep finisher, got the fat grips on the bar, 55.5 pounds, pulling in those fractional plates because they're incredibly useful when it comes to micro progressing on those exercises that prioritize smaller muscle groups. And I cleared 2 sets of 15 respectively on those. I'm sure you're starting to notice there's a little bit of a trend here when it comes to forearm development and grip strength, and the fact that I incorporate on a quite consistent basis some sort of thick handle or thick training implement or thick bar into my workout regimen. There's a method to the madness. So, unfortunately, my wrist is still pretty jacked up. I was hoping it would heal by today, but it didn't. So it looks like I'm going to be pulling with a switch grip. This will be interesting. I don't think I've done this in like 3 years. So hopefully my grip strength has developed over the years and I'll be able to pull the appropriate numbers, but won't know till we get there. Fingers crossed. Nailed the front squats, 292.5 pounds for a top end set of 6 repetitions, getting to the point where I'm going to be moving 3 plates for multiple reps across as well. In the front squat, that's a pretty big milestone, but it's not as big as the 405 front squat that I'm itching for. But regardless, I ran this for a set of 6 and then backed off the weight to 263 pounds and cleared another 2 sets of 6 immediately after. As you can see, the weight is getting heavy enough that my upper back doesn't have adequate strength to maintain that upright torso position. By the final couple of reps in the set, I'm really starting to lose control over that load, but all in due time, we'll just get stronger little by little, and we'll eventually be able to handle some serious front squat weight. Then I went into my ugly, cringy sumos, which need to be dialed back and reset, and volume needs to be prioritized. Pull the top end set of 435 pounds for 6 repetition. A lot of rounding through the thoracic spine, the upper back. Not something that I'm worried about, just something I'm disappointed in. It's quite evident that this is a lagging area for me in consideration of physical capacity. Right from the start, the upper back rounding begins. This needs to be prioritized and worked on, as does my sumo setup. It's just not all that great, and I need to stop training my ego, dial in my discipline, and just do what needs to be done, and that's do some rep work, multiple sets across, and get good in consideration of the skill-based component of the execution of the lift itself. I know I've got the strength. I need to dial in the proficiency of form, and then I'll be able to express that physical capacity to a much higher degree. Finished off the training session with some reverse hyper work as per usual on lower body intensity days. All in all, a solid week.